You might tell me, well, Eric, I did exactly what I told you I was going to do. Or you might say, Eric, I didn't do that at all. I did something totally different. And either way, I'll say, well, that's cool. Tell me what you did and what happened. And we're going to probably find that that decision has like 5 or 6 sub decisions that are all floating around. And so we're going to kind of untangle them. Which one is most important, or which one is most exciting? Where's the biggest reward, right? Where's the biggest payoff? And you're building capacity. And again, this all might be happening in just a matter of a couple seconds here, a couple seconds there, or we might spend a few minutes on each one. That's up to you.
I would love to help the audience to envision what the looks like if they are a business owner. Can you walk me through today's Monday morning? Okay. What happens? Just step by step. So if you, what happens?
So the main thing that happens is I would say if we let's say that this is week 3 in a 12-week program, I would say, well, how's it going, Xiao? And you would just tell me, and then I would say, okay, now last time we talked about this decision you had to make, and you looked at different options that you would have and different considerations that you had, and you decided that this is what you were going to do, this is what was going to happen, and this is the stakeholders that would care in the future about whether you did that or not. But then we ended the exercise, and I went back to my office, and you did your work. So please tell me, what did you do? Right? So that's the very first thing we'll say. And then you might tell me, well, Eric, I did exactly what I told you I was going to do. Or you might say, Eric, I didn't do that at all. I did something totally different. And either way, I'll say, well, that's cool. Tell me what you did and what happened. Right? So this is me keeping track of how your decision process is evolving over time. So I'm going to add that to my map, what we call midstream modulation. Okay. How are your processes being changed in midstream while you're doing them? Okay, then we'll jump into the dialogue exercise. I'll say, okay, what are you facing today? What's on your mind today? And you might say, well, it's the same project that I talked to you about last week. It's just now I've got a different client I'm dealing with. So we'll jump right into that. Or you might say, it's still the same project. I'm trying to design this thing. I got this other part finished, but now we have something that's broken. I need to fix that. Right. And so whatever it is, we're going to spend some time getting to know that decision. And we're going to probably find that that decision has like 5 or 6 sub decisions that are all floating around. And so we're going to kind of untangle them and say, okay, sounds like there's about 15 things you need to do in the next 24 hours. Which one is most important, or which one is most exciting, or which one is most, scary for you, right? And I'll sort of invite, where's the pain point here? So I'm going to really try to go into where the energy is, where the pain point is. It's either the biggest threat or the biggest reward that you could go up, right? And it's going to really, together we might say, well, let's take this one. And again, this all might be happening in just a matter of a couple seconds here, a couple seconds there, or we might spend a few minutes on each one, or we really might, up until now, we might have spent 35 minutes. And that's up to you, right? As an embedded humanist, a STIR agent, I will come in and I'll block off 2 hours in case you want to talk to me that long. But I'll be prepared that this might just be a 20-minute dialogue exercise, right? And so the depth that we go into and the amount of time we spend is really going to be up to you, okay? But then at some point, we're going to identify what we call an anchoring opportunity, okay? And we're going to call it an opportunity because we want to reframe it. It might seem like a threat to you, or it might seem like a task or a responsibility or an unknown or a question, but we're going to say, okay, it's an opportunity, all right? So we're going to frame that opportunity, and then we're going to ask, well, what do you need to think about in responding to that opportunity, okay? And we're going to pull out things that just occur to you randomly in the moment. I'm going to ask key questions to pull out, make sure that you're thinking in a robust way about it. But I'm really going to be following your lead, what you tell me. And I'm also going to be basing it on the last 2 weeks. Since this is the 3rd time we've done it, I know a little bit more about how you think. I know a little bit more about how your organization works. So when you're done telling me, I might say, well, what about this other thing that you told me last week? Why didn't you mention it now? And you might say, oh, Eric, because we phased that out. That's not part of what we do anymore. Or you might say, yeah, that's a really good question, Eric. I didn't tell you because I don't want to think about that. That's too complex for me. And I might say, okay, we can leave that aside. Or I might say, well, that's interesting. Why is it too complex? You weren't as, avoiding complexity last week. And then you might say, well, it's because of this, Eric. And it turns out, oh, there's another issue And I'll say, oh, well, do you want to deal with that, or should we just keep on the same track? And so it's really up to you. How deep do you want to go with this, right? What are you up? What kind of challenges are you up for? Where's the biggest reward, right? Where's the biggest payoff? So we're kind of constantly navigating where's the pain point. But when we get through the considerations, we're going to come to the alternatives. We're going to look at various things that you already have thought about doing, things that you can think about doing, if you just kind of do a quick scan of like, what do I know how to do? How have I done this before? And then I'll ask some probing questions that are going to help you expand your option space and think of other ways. And we're going to kind of bounce back and forth between the criteria that's going to outline the decision and the options you have for moving forward. Then we're going to run those into the final quadrant, which is what we call outcomes. And that's where we're going to explore, you know, your gut feeling, what you think you want to do. Where's your desire? Where's your impulse pushing, right? And we're going to start anticipating different consequences, good, bad, and different. Doesn't matter. We're just going to kind of get a sense of how they are, and we're going to come back, and that's going to maybe alter our understanding of what are the goals here, right? And that also might rebound and change what are the options. You might realize, oh, I can combine these two things I didn't realize I could before. So we're going to kind of go back and forth. It's a very iterative process. And we're ultimately going to ask, who are the stakeholders that are going to care about what you do and why you do it and how you do it now, right? It's not a list that says, who should you be thinking about, right? I'm not going to pull out a list and say, you should be thinking about these people. You should be thinking about those people. It's very different. It's more bottom up, inside out. It's like, okay, based on this problem, this opportunity, these considerations, these options, these alternatives, and this whole outcome space, which is kind of a mini scenario development that we're kind of rapidly going through, right? How does that change all these other things? That might even cause you to come back and reframe the original opportunity and say, you know what? That's actually not the problem I'm working on at all. It's this other thing I'm really working on, a stakeholder value issue. I didn't even realize that. I thought I was working on a supply chain issue. It's a stakeholder value issue. Actually, I'm working on both. They go together, right? So you're going to have all sorts of metacognitive learning, and we're going to just explore different options and see what happens and find the stakeholder values, right? They might be environmental, they might be economic, they might be ethical, they might be ergonomic, right? And I'm not going to introduce new knowledge and tell you should think about this or that. You're going to be the one that says, well, I think I heard something about this because they're sponsoring the project. And I might then say, oh, do you want me to go back and read the original job application or the proposal, and then we can find out what you're real, but in the moment, we're going to just work with the knowledge that we have. The knowledge that you have as an individual and as an organizational practitioner, and me as somebody who's observing you and the organization, we're going to try to build the most robust understanding of who would care. And I'm not going to say just because they care, you should listen to them. That's on you, right? In thinking about, well, these are the people who think they would be affected by if I do this versus if I do that. And then it's totally on you to just kind of like live with that. How does that make you feel? What does that make you want to do? Anything at all, right? And so then next week I'll come back and I'll say, well, what did you end up doing? And you say, oh, I changed. I decided to do this instead of that. I'll say, oh, okay, that's cool. How come you did that and what happened? I'll write it down. And then, what I'll look for is to see whether your thinking and decision-making modulated over time. And if it did, how that related to our conversations, if there are key variables in there that allowed you to sort of develop a capacity that previously you weren't really consciously exercising. And then we'll issue a report at the end that sort of looks at these modulations and then, challenges the organization. Well, do you want to continue to build this capacity, right? We just did this for 12 weeks. Here's some options for moving forward.